So the big question is this: how do passionate golfers like you and I develop a stock shot day in and day out? A stock shot that's as reliable as the sun coming up in the morning. That's the question, and this podcast is the answer. Welcome to Stock Shot Secrets. So my family and I were having dinner the other night, and we do these little cards. I forget what the game is called, but they're these little cards that we have on the table. My family and I, we love to eat dinner 3-4 nights a week together. My wife was once a chef, so we eat really well. And these cards are cool little cards because they create discussion, right? They're discussions for my 12, 10, and 8-year-old and my wife's to kind of what's your favorite ice cream? Blah, 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 blah. And one of the cards that came up the other night that made me want to share with you was a card that said, what is your biggest fear, right? And I sat there and thought I told him, I said, one of my greatest fears, and I go, this is a little heavy, so I'm telling this to my 12, 10, and 8-year-old, but my biggest fear is that I sit at my day of death, right, whenever Jesus takes me home, and whenever my life ends, and I have regret in my life, because I don't want to have a life that has any regret. So it made me think, with my kids and with you guys and spending some time with you, is what are the habits, right, that I have in my life that help me to basically feel like I'm living a life without regret? Because I think that's a really powerful thing, right? And I think that this podcast, it's not only built for you guys as golfers, it's built for you guys as dads, as moms, as bosses, as wives, as husbands, as business owners. It really goes to anyone, right? But I also think it also helps our golf game too, because it allows us to have balance, right? So the first one that I want to get into is of things that I basically habits that I live my life by, because I get asked all the time, not bragging, but it's Kyle, you got the golf room, you got the golf room everywhere, you got collegegolf.com, you got all these, YouTubes and Instagram videos and podcasts and blah, 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 blah. How do you do it all? Do you ever sleep? I get that a lot. Do you sleep, Kyle? And I go, yes, I do. I sleep quite well, actually, right? So what are the habits that I'm doing? So the first one that I really, really, and they kind of all correlate to each other, but the first one that I want to give you guys as a law is something where the word is called industrious. So one of the gifts, and I'm not saying that all these I've mastered, right, first and foremost, but one of the gifts that I do have is the ability to be very industrious. So industrious to me is the fact that you always make time and you always get it done even when you don't have any time, right? So one of my biggest pet peeves, right, out of this world pet peeves is when people are I'm just so busy, I can't find time to do that. I'm listen, man, we all are busy. No one is not busy. Everyone is running a bazillion miles an hour, right? And some of us are running a gazillion miles an hour, right? And they run even faster. And the problem is that people in general, they're not industrious enough, right? There's almost too much downtime. And we're going to get into the idea of downtime and not downtime and all that here in a second. But it's when I say industrious, one of the gifts that I'll have is if I'm pumping gas, I'm firing emails. If I'm walking from my office to, the bathroom at the golf room, I'm firing off text messages. If I am doing whatever it may be, right? You're always accomplishing something, unless the goal, which we're going to talk about in a minute, is to accomplish nothing. That could be a goal at some time, is I'm literally going to do nothing. That is what my goal is right now, right? But being industrious is a way in which you have essentially the workability and the workload of 5 people in one, because most people, I'm sorry, but most people are really, really lazy. It is what it is, right? And they're not making most amount of time out of their day. So you got to learn how to expunge every single square inch of what the time that you have, because we all have very limited time. And I think being industrious and maximizing your time is really, really important. Okay. That's the first thing. So that's where it's almost working hard. This is almost another way of saying that. I just like the word industrious instead of being working hard. The second trait that I think helps to be super effective is people who don't wait, right? See, one of the things that I have noticed about very highly successful people that I've been around is that when opportunity or things that need to happen, they don't wait, they just do it. So for example, and it also makes it so they don't miss anything. So for example, let's say for example, I need to schedule a meeting. Instead of like waiting to schedule the meeting at a different time where it's like, okay, I'll schedule that meeting like tomorrow and I'll put it on the books for a week from now. It's like, no, like just do it in that moment, because if you do it in the moment, it gets done. And it's the people who are waiting to do the tasks are the ones who fall behind, and they're the ones that it's where it's kind of like, hey, I sent you an email, I never heard a response, or like I sent you a text, I never heard a response, or oh, blah, 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 blah. So like waiting and being like pushing and keep pushing tasks downstream, what ends up happening, it's almost like a log jam happens because you start pushing all of these things downstream. And it makes me think of like the rivers that are in Washington State, or like when you see those floods and you see all of the trees and they all go down into this gigantic log boom at the bottom of the river. And so what ends up happening is you keep pushing stuff downstream and downstream and downstream. And then what ends up happening is there's so many things that you then feel overwhelmed, compared to basically spreading it out. And when something needs to get done, just do it. And like, if you can handle it in that moment, then just handle it in the moment rather than kind of like pushing it. And this probably goes more towards like the little tiny, we'll say like the paper cuts, right? Like the meetings and the text messages and blah, blah, blah. There's one of my other pet peeves is like, I am like an anti-bubble guy. So like I can't go to bed with bubbles on my text messages and emails unresponded to, right? Which is also why for you guys, I'm a massive stickler with everything that we're doing for what we call constant contact, the ability to like make sure that if you have a question, you get a question answered like immediately, right? So the ability to not procrastinate and push things forward right in the moment of time, I think is a really, really important one. Hey guys, I hope you are enjoying this episode of the Stock Shot Secrets podcast. If you are enjoying it, be sure to like this episode. Be sure to subscribe so you can always see when they're coming out. And most importantly, if you would be so kind to be able to share this podcast with other passionate golfers who are trying to get better and build stock shots, because it grows through you sharing it. Thank you so much for tuning in. And now back to Stock Shot Secrets. The next one, and this one is really, really, really hard for me, right? And that is that complexity kills execution, but simplicity will always allow things to scale and be better. And this is probably more of a business thing, and this is something that I have struggled with, right? And it's kind of something I'm struggling with right now, to be very transparent with you, is that I love being an entrepreneur. I love opportunity. I love like, oh, let's do this. Like, this is the thing. Okay, cool. That was fun. We like did it 10%. That was fun. What's the next project? And then like we do this, and we keep moving, and we keep moving, and we keep moving. Whereas the older I get, the more I understand that simplicity, especially in the business world, simplicity wins. Because if we can keep the things that we are doing that are working, and we just keep doing that and do it more, it works. We don't need to create 100 different things. We just need like a few things that actually work. So rather than being a master of like 9 gazillion things and being like mediocre in them, just choose a few and be really, really good at it. Right? And that's something that I'm constantly having to like reel myself in. And by the grace of my wife, she helps reel me in and go, no, Kyle, like just focus on what we're doing right now. Like keep it simple. Like just focus here. Don't go wander and chase the girl in the red dress or the shiny silver object. Right? And it's very easy for me to get distracted and want to go run after those things. And the older I get, the better I get at just like bringing it back and saying, no, I just got to keep it simple and keep doing this thing because this thing is working. Right? So that's the next piece. The next one that we have is, and it kind of goes to one of those, kind of goes a little bit into the industrious part, is the ability to compartmentalize what we need to do, right? So if you were to look at like I don't know if you guys are watching this, but if you guys were going to look at my calendar, right? Like my calendar, you can see all that blue. My calendar is blocked 9 to 5, and every single hour within my calendar is booked. And it might be booked with a lesson, it might be booked with a meeting, but if it's not booked with a lesson, a meeting, or a phone call, it's then booked with what am I going to do within that hour. So it might be shooting a Loom video, it might be recording a podcast, it might be, working on Academy, whatever it may be, but it's compartmentalized so that my entire day is compartmentalized so that my brain is right there. It's nowhere else, and I'm not kind of like trying to do 47 different things at once. It allows me to compartmentalize so that I am in that space at that time. And like I was saying a few minutes ago, sometimes, the compartmentalization is like there has to be actual time for me to unwind. And that's what the compartment is. It's like chill out time, right? Which leads me into my fifth point, which is the idea of work hard and play hard, right? So going with point one, I'm a very, very big believer, right, in rest and recovery. Because while I think that working your tail off and working so much harder than everyone else is imperative to like fulfilling your calling on life that God has given you, I also think there's a reason why God created a day of rest so that we can rest and recuperate, right? So I will try, and this is something I also struggle with as well, right? Because I love to go, and I love speed, and I love to do things, and I love working, and I love helping people and all that stuff. But what I try to do the best that I possibly can, and a lot of times I fail, but like the best that I possibly can is I want to make it so that if I'm working, I'm working, and if I'm playing, I'm playing. And when I say playing, I just mean like hanging out, right? So I try really, really hard. And what this really helps, it allows your brain to basically reset and refresh so that you can have creative thoughts. You can essentially be, you can be where your 2 feet are, right? Like you can be a dad if you're being a dad, a husband if you need to be a husband, a golfer if you're on the golf course, right? I think, and if you can make sense of this for the golfer, right? And obviously you are because you're listening to this podcast. Like, if you think about it, how bad do you play when you play golf while answering emails from work? I mean, you might as well just go to work, right? So there's times where you just go, hey, I'm playing golf and like, how I play, I don't really care today. I'm just enjoying the sun and I like being out here and I'm going to fire some emails, and that's okay, right? Like if that's the prerogative. But if you're trying to play and you're trying to play good, right? Like you need to compartmentalize and say, this is my golf time and I'm just doing this golf time. So it's like, hey, I'm going to go play golf, and let's say it's a work day and I'm going to go play golf at 11 to 2. Well, like wake up early and work. So that way when you go to the golf course, you can just check out and you go, I am off the clock for 4 to 5 hours. I will deal with it later or, the next morning, or I did everything I could early in the morning. But try to compartmentalize so that wherever you are, wherever your 2 feet are, that's where you are. And I think that's really hard in life. I think it is a skill that we can train. And, the older you get, like the better I try to get at it. And it's something I'm super mindful. And I think it's also important, to have people in your life at the same time that can help you with some of the habits that you need that you aren't great at. So like, my wife is my partner in crime. Like she is my best friend and like my soulmate. And like this area for me, this compartmentalizing part, this is or like work hard, play hard. This one is one that I struggle with as well, is while I have it as the root conviction of my heart, sometimes I'm like at the pool and with the kids and I'm like, I'm just going to work real quick. And it's like, no. Like, just be here, man. Like, just put it away. And that's where I have like the conviction in my heart. I'm like, yes, I need to go take my phone and like put it in the bedroom and like get away from it, turn off my watch. Like my watch is like wicked old. Like my Apple Watch, I think is like 4 or 5 years old, and it dies every day at 5:30. And there's actually a massive beauty to that, because if it didn't die, I would put my phone in my bedroom, but my phone would still go off with like students texting or employees or whatever it is asking. But because my watch is away, my phone is away, it basically allows me to unwind from the hours of 6 to 9 to when I go to bed, and then I wake up at 5 in the morning and get back after it, right? And then it's time to go. And then I work from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m., and then I get out. And I go in, I go out, right? So that's another really, really important trait that I think that I kind of live by. The other one that kind of goes to the holistic of this whole thing, is to live your life without regrets, right? So, not to say like get like too overly, we'll say, spiritual with you, but it's like there really is, to me personally, there is something to be said about like the man who gains his whole life but loses his soul. Like, it's pointless, right? So I don't want to do anything in my life with any decisions I have to make. I don't want to have any type of regret on those decisions that I've made, right? So point 6 and point 7, which is really point 7 goes to this in point 6, which is really like following the code of your heart, or we'll say like morality, or if like you're a believer, maybe like the Holy Spirit or whatever you want to call it. But when you can make decisions in your life, and when you look back, you have no regret because you worked as hard as you possibly can. You followed the values and the morality of your heart, and you did what you thought in that moment to the best of your wisdom and the best of your understanding, the best decision that you can make for the greater good, and it is filled with peace, love, and grace, then that's all you can ask, right? And we're going to make mistakes, right? We are human beings, and that's okay, right? But we want to make it so that whatever the decisions, and a lot of times there's really, really big decisions, like maybe it's, should I take this job? Should we have another kid? Should we adopt a kid? Should we, whatever it may be, you always want to follow the code that's sitting inside of your heart and the morality that's signing your heart. Because if nothing else, at least at the end of life, you will have no regrets as to what you did, how you spent your time, and what you accomplished. Because the nice part is that when you follow like these 7 traits, right? The nice part is that you can look back, in my opinion, on your life and you go, I did, and I was a good steward of the gifts that I was given to the best of my ability, and however it played out is exactly how it played out, right? So many times players will be, or not players, but like friends, or might be players or students or whatever. They go, hey Kyle, do you have any regrets about like professional golf? Like you made it, but like you didn't like really fully make it. And I go, no. Like I did these 7 things, like I did these to the best of my possible ability, and the cards fell where they fell. And I'm okay with that, right? Because right now I get to hang out with you, which is like my ultimate calling. So these kind of just want to get these because it kind of made my brain think a little bit when my family was asking me that question. I thought it would be cool to kind of share a little bit of what I think are like effective habits, essentially kind of like Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, kind of a little bit similar to that. But these are kind of some rules that I live by. Maybe you can steal 1 or 2. It would help you out. But I appreciate you being a part of my story. I like to be a part of your story. And hopefully this helps a little bit. So thank you so much, and we'll see you back here for another episode. Hey guys, thank you so much for listening to the latest episode of the Stock Shot Secrets. Now, I want to give you a special opportunity where you and I can chat individually by just simply texting the following number, and you can ask any question under the sun about anything relative to your game or your skill, body, mind, whatever it is. So just text me at 614-541-1988. That's 614-541-1988. Subscribe to our text line, and then you can be in the special Stock Shot community where we can talk about everything under the sun regarding stock shots.